Kevin, can you hear me? All right, Kevin, are you there? I'm gonna shut this music off.
Yes, I am.
Oh man, this software is weird because when the mute thing is checked, it's actually on. When it's unchecked, it's not.
Oh.
It's very confusing. But you didn't hear me say all those bad things I was saying before, so
No.
we better check the feed. I don't know. Maybe like we can't hear it, but the feed can hear it. That was bad. I'm gonna get canceled. Allie walked over with my coffee, so.
Oh my goodness. I missed the coffee bill.
Well, next week we'll be back in Miami, so we get back. Oh, I just got a hello from Harrison. Harrison used to work at Ardan.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, strong engineer. He had to go and move on with his life, but it was sad. Anyway, and that will happen with you too one day, Kevin. You'll move on, and I will be sad. And you'll have no more coffee. No more coffee from Allie at that point.
Oh man.
You're no longer an Ardan employee. You get no more Allie coffee. That's just the way it works. Okay. So today we are going to, somebody just said real-time chat. Oh, look, Delaney's here, man. Delaney, you're going to have to write the data star client for this thing, man. We set you up last week for that, so got to do it. All right, let's go back to our notes, because I think today we're doing nonce work, and we should have time to do some other stuff here. So let me see if I hit the right buttons. I've got that, and I'm going to bring up the code. But now that I got Delaney here, you got to go to this. Do I have the repo up? This repo here, Ardan Labs USDL. Watch a couple videos. But under front ends, we have this client here that we wrote. Actually, under client, we have our terminal UI. But you could basically write a new package that essentially implements a couple of interfaces. And right, Kevin, right?
Yep.
You've got to implement this interface right here. And the rest is history, man. That would be kind of cool to even, maybe we get, I wonder, let's run the system for a second. I got Delaney here before we start here. Because here's my question, since I'm going to run the cap. I'm going to run the client. I better just do make, run client. Kevin, run yours too.
Yep.
So now I'm wondering, how long would it take? My joke to you, dude. I got to do what I got to do here to really focus on the right things. All right, how long would it take you? Oh, dude, we have a bug. It didn't bring up their history. Damn it! Now that I had two names, it didn't work.
Mm.
All right, we're gonna fix the nonce first, and then we're gonna go back and fix that UI bug. Delaney, how long would it take you, could you in 2 hours build, remember everything else is already built, just a matter of plugging into a UI where I could send a message to Kevin, today is a good day. Yeah, and basically you have a submit button, a text box, a list of users and their IDs and message. Like how long would that take? Because that would take only a couple of hours. We should have Delaney on and have him.
That would be cool.
Code a new front end, and it would prove. It would never have that bug. I had to hack something, dude, for that. A real hack. But you're right. You're absolutely right. So that's it. Well, not today, but next week, Tuesday and or Thursday next week from 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. All right, so that's the gig. Find me a day next week, Tuesday or Thursday, and we're gonna bring Delaney on, and he's gonna create a new front end for us. All he's gotta do is implement those interfaces, and we're good, right?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna fix that bug. That showed up ever since Mohammed entered in my list. Remember, I tried to get rid of the last one. Oh,
yes.
I tried to get rid of the last one and put it back, but then I didn't set. Okay, I know what the bug is. Thursday. All right, Delaney, Kevin and I are going to send you some emails after this. We're going to get you on the show. We'll give you a link where you come in like Kevin is. And got to figure out how he's going to hack on the. I guess he could. All right, we're going to figure it out, dude, since you're going to be hacking here. Yeah, we're going to send you that after the show. So that means that on Thursday, when we figure out the technical aspects of this, Delaney's going to come in and build a data star front end for this. Then we're playing with power, dude. Then it gets like,
that would be interesting.
Yeah. Plus, we got to learn how to be able to like update it and change it and stuff for the new feature functionality. But dude, that's sick. This little project is just going to be a little chat server, like almost becoming a product.
It's slowly, yep. It's snowballing now.
Okay, so let's get back to the work here. So we're gonna fix that bug, but let's do the non stuff first, then we'll fix the bug. Look at Delaney's getting all cocky there. Do it in less than 30 minutes. Yeah, I don't know about that stuff. That would be crazy. But we got 2 hours, so we don't have to rush through it. But it will be interesting. Okay, so let's get to the non stuff now, and then we'll come back and fix the bug. So, sorry, under chat here. If I go back under Zarf, client, DB, right? We agreed that what we wanted to do, what did we call it? My last nonce? Is that what we said?
Yeah,
call
I
it?
think it was my last nonce, and then last nonce is what we stopped at.
My last nonce and then just last nonce, right? Why are you? Oh, you don't have a comma there. I'm just trying to take a look at it. So this is what we're thinking here. Yeah. Okay. No comment. Okay. So this is what we want to add to each of the contacts, and then start making sure that we are tracking that properly, right? So to give us that last little bit of security that somebody's not trying to impersonate Kevin or Mohammed, because one, everything gets signed. The cap does that. That's fine. But remember, they could always send this. They could leverage. I mean, it's really hard, right? Because when the data changes, but I mean, they could keep sending the same message, I guess. I don't know. Right? But you need that nonce in order to guarantee that there's no tomfoolery. I had a list of like really weird words that I gave the 13-year-old one day. Oh man, I don't know if I can find this list, dude. So I gave the 13-year-old a list of words, and I said, every time you use one of these words, and it's not forced, right? Like it's used in a really natural way. I don't have the list. I got to find the list. I'll give you something. So I got to find this list for the next one. But like tomfoolery was like, oh, here it is. Oh, dude, I got the list here. Okay. Skedaddle, nincompoop, collywobbles, malarkey,
Malarkey, wow.
kerfuddle, hoodwink, bamboozled. So she's got a list of like 20 words, and anytime she can use one of these where it's like none of this tomfoolery, then like she gets something like that, dude. Hilarious. I'm gonna have to publish that list in the code somewhere.
That is funny.
So we are looking to do this essentially here. So let's start with the storage stuff, because this affects on the storage. Now that we got these packages, right? This will be another opportunity, because we look at this code every 3 days, which is not normal when you're really working on a product, right? You're using it every day. But what's been good for us is we look at this code every 3 days or so, and we constantly are challenging our mental model of the code base, right?
Yes.
So now that we have packages, this is awesome, right? Because we're like, where does this belong? Oh, this is storage, obviously, because we're writing it to disk. So, and we had 2 levels of the storage. We had this really lower level, right? And we had the sort of higher level. So this is the lower level, right? The contacts. Now, there is one silly thing going on here that I just noticed. We use this same data file user for the user here. And that really shouldn't have any nonce information, should it?
No.
No, it shouldn't. And so now this gets interesting, because we've got basically 2 choices here. I could use pointer semantics here for this, which could be a little bit more complicated. But one option is to say, okay, so this is my last nonce, right? And I can say it's going to be a pointer to this. And then I could do the omit empty. Because if I use 0, I don't think 0 will represent emptiness. Plus, we don't want that anyway, because we want to write 0 at the very beginning. So
Yeah.
I could do something like this. Why is this bugging out? Because I'm not using it yet. Oh, but it's not exported.
It's
Yeah, it's
not
gotta be
exported.
capital.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Now I could do this and then say fine. When that pointer is nil, these fields won't get written to disk. But now we got to deal with pointer semantics. But we also get to sort of use one struct. The other option, right, is to define another type that doesn't have the pointer semantics, right? It doesn't have those fields. And sort of do this and say, you know what, so which one do you prefer?
I like this version better because it's kind of separating the two things. It's separating like your account from like other users or your contacts, basically.
I think that's a smart answer, because though somebody might say, well, you have redundancy there. Like, what are you doing? I would argue that this gives us more flexibility, right? The pointer semantics would have worked, but that was more of a hack, really, wasn't it? Like, we're trying to hack a situation here where we didn't want to write it in one place. Instead of just defining the data shape that we need. Remember, I always talk about data shapes. So this gives us the better data shape in terms of and gives us more flexibility over time and less potential to make bugs. It's almost like we're coding in DataStar, right? Because apparently, when you code in DataStar, you don't make any bugs. So I'm feeling good now, man. So I think this was, now it's going to be a little bit more work to do the marshalling, but whatever, right? Like, we're going to have better data integrity sort of when we do this. So if you see here, remember I tell you, I turned everything off on my editor, but I love these red lines on the side. Like, I don't like it when people show that code view. I don't know how to read that. Have you ever see the small code view on the side where it's like really tiny and it kind of gives you code structure? I don't know how to use that. But the red lines are awesome for me. So now we know that this really is going to be my account. And what's funny is we had to like do this anyway. So, because we passed it in. So actually that caused us no pain, at least at this point, creating the new struct, right? Like, none at all. And this gives us the zeros. When I mean this now will give us the zeros for free, which is sort of cool. Create on disk. And then when we rewrite, create on disk, trying to remember, new database, create on disk, read, flush. The flush always takes the entire data file, right? Yeah. And we just flush it. It's kind of inefficient, but how many contacts are you going to have? Even if you had 1,000 contacts. So this is where I want to go crazy sometimes, right? So we could argue that this is inefficient, that we're always rewriting the entire data file over and over again, right? Because to not do that would mean we'd have to have complexity in seeking or going to the end. Like, for the messages, it's easy. We just write to the end. But we're going to have to update something in the middle. And so to add complexity, to know exactly what byte in the file to update something. Now, if we needed that level of efficiency, then I would say add that level of complexity. This is where I'm always talking about, you got to balance the amount of complexity you need to solve the problem. So right now, even if you had 1,000 contacts, how long does it take to just rewrite the file? Like, you won't even feel it, dude, right? It's not until this takes a second or two where now you might have to say, we need another strategy. But why code that complexity today when you don't need it, right?
Makes sense.
We could absolutely change that interface, Delaney, when we're working together. We could definitely add a context to that. Once we add this last piece and we go to fix the UI bug, we'll add the context to the run method for Delaney. But none of this code is locked in stone, man. We'll do what we have to do to make it more flexible, right? To add the ability to see another UI, and that's the cool part, right? If we do this properly, and we'll know right away. Like Delaney's data star is going to be a great first example of, do we have enough flexibility in that interface to allow somebody to integrate a new UI, right? I think we do, but he's already seeing like it would helpful to have a context. Yeah, it's cool. All right, so I think all this is good. That went in yellow, right? So that's kind of cool. Though I thought we have a user. Now, the user has the messages. So now we've got a small problem here because a user, come back here, also needs to have the nonce stuff, right? Now remember, this is a higher level struct. This is a low level struct related to actual data storage. And these don't have to be a one-to-one. In fact, if you look at this closely, there really isn't. But I am going to add this, even though when it comes to like me, it may not have that. We'll look at that. But this is now what a user is, right? It's got an ID, it's got a name, it's got my last nonce, their last nonce, right? Now, here we go again, man, with language changes. Is my that user or my the client? You see what happens to us every time? So my account is always me, the client itself, right? And in the scope of the config file, it's easy to understand who my is. It's me. But I'm wondering if we're getting the same feedback here. We gotta keep it consistent. Because in the scope of that user, is my that user, right? I feel like this has to be
account.
Oh, account, maybe. Account? It's yeah. This is where it gets really, like, we've been having this problem since the beginning. You know, we've been having this problem since the beginning of figuring out the language for this right now. If I come back here, this is my account, and these are my contacts, you know, and I can always get my account information back out. But at the app layer, since this represents a user, I could see somebody get confused that my will be the user's last nonce as opposed to the log, right? We don't really have a logged in user, but we have a client that is associated with an identity, right? Remember, we have the identity here at the client level. I just know this is going to get confusing at some point.
Yeah, depending on the scope of where you're looking at it from.
Yeah, because the context here isn't, when you see my here and you've never looked at all about the code, you're thinking my is related to this user, right?
Yeah.
But what is it that can distinguish what this is? What if I just use client here for now? So this is the client last nonce, right? Because if I say client here, we know, or maybe it's not client. Maybe it's, just to stay a little more generic, the app last nonce versus, but it's not really the app, though our app is associated with what? One user today.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep it like this for now, because obviously we don't know enough yet, but we'll get there. Okay, so if I do that, what do we know here? We've got storage stuff too. Let's go back to the storage stuff for a second. Because remember, we use the app type for this. right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So there's my account. That's fine. Now, when it comes to my account, right, we're not using app last nonce. I think that's fine. I don't want to create another type for this now. We could come in and create another type, but I think that's going to add more complexity, right? So in other words, we could do the same thing we did. Let's go back to this for a second. Oh, not here. Where was I just now? Hold on. I was looking at query. Okay. Query. Where was I, bro? I was right here. Yeah. This is when what do we do here? We're reading in, yeah, and then we have my app user, which is my account. Okay, my account is using that, and that's a DB. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. We used user here, right?
Yeah.
So we could again apply that same change. Maybe this would also maybe fix some problems here.
Where we separate that to try and avoid the confusion there.
Maybe. Let's say we just did this for a minute, okay? So we still do our my account type and our user type. And then if we come back to this would be an app, my account, right? Just to separate the two sort of data structures as this gets a little bit more sort of complex again. And what's nice here is this can just return a my account. That's kind of cool,
Yep.
right? Now, I'm a little shocked that nothing went red. Aren't you shocked nothing went red?
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often.
Now it finally went red here in main.go. So it didn't go red because we were still able to get the name field out of that my account. So that's sort of what happened there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And that's fair. All right. So, okay, so that's good. So that's why that didn't go red, because we just needed the name, right? Now, we could have. So, okay, let's have a conversation around precision. This is all API design questions now, okay? So I talk in my classes about this idea of a gorilla.
Yep.
This type here is a gorilla. This type here is a gorilla. It's a data structure with a lot of different data. It's not just one thing, right? It's like a gorilla. And we talk about gorillas can hold bananas and apples, and like gorilla can hold fruit. And so when you're designing APIs, you have to decide, is it safe to pass the gorilla in, or should we pass the banana in? Now, if we're passing the banana in, we're being a little bit more precise, because if this API needs a banana, pass in the banana. However, sometimes it's nice to pass in the gorilla, but you're only allowed to pass the gorilla in if you have 100% guarantee that it's holding a banana. If you have that guarantee that it's holding the banana, then you could use the gorilla. Anytime you write a method, you're basically passing a gorilla in. This is why I like method-based APIs. You have to be extra careful, because if you have no guarantee that the receiver, the gorilla, is holding the banana, you're going to have fraud and misuse in the API. So I come back here,
I see it.
And app handshake says, I need a name, right?
Yep.
We could argue that the name is a banana. But
yes,
now that we've got this type called my account, right? I could choose to pass in the gorilla. I could choose to change this API to look like this. The compiler would have gone red had the API been designed this way, because the type originally wouldn't have been an account. It would have been a user, and we try to change that type information, right? We changed the shape.
Mm.
And so when I looked at myaccount.name, that felt dirty a little bit. I think the API just asking for a name felt interesting. However, I'd argue that this is now a more precise API asking for the gorilla, because what the handshake really needed was account information. We can't just pass any name in anymore. We can only pass in information related to my account.
My account.
Which we know is a gorilla, but it is a gorilla 100% holding a banana, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have gotten this far. Right?
Okay.
And so here's go on, say it.
So it's better, it's more precise in this case to pass the gorilla in rather than passing like account.name.
Because
like what's the advantage?
So here's the thing,
I guess.
Right? Which we're looking at precision.
Mm-hmm.
If I ask you for a string, what am I saying to you? If I ask you for a string, what am I really saying? I'm saying that I'll take anything that looks like a string.
It could be any.
Including an empty string.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could have used that API and passed an empty string, and the compiler wouldn't have stopped it, and who knows what would have happened.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So even though I would argue that we were asking for a banana, we were really asking for a string that has really no constraint on anything. Now, though we're using a gorilla, right, a larger struct, we're asking now, I would say this is much more of asking for a banana, in the sense that I'm asking for a data structure that represents my account. And we have a precise knowledge that we're going to have a gorilla holding a banana, because we wouldn't have gotten that far in the code if it wasn't there. And so
okay, I see it. That makes sense.
We got better type safety now.
Yes.
And I think we've got more precision now, because in this particular case, we're asking for the gorilla. Interesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Sometimes when you ask for the gorilla, you're losing precision. And there's a case where I think we're gaining. Why? Because we're moving from a string to a more precise type.
It's a string in relation to my account.
Right.
Rather than just any string. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so
I see it.
When I start seeing us using basic types for things, it always gives me a little unease, because a string can be anything, but a my account can only be an ID of another shape, and a name, which we say could be anything. And if we wanted to get more precise, we could define a type called name, which would
and give name the shape.
That's right, give name the shape. Now, I don't think we need to do that here, okay? But if that became a problem, then I would define a name type, give that shape, and make sure that it's got to be at least 3 characters, and it can only be alphanumeric in English or whatever the rules would be, right? This is where that type.
Gotcha.
Now you get the compiler involved in your data integrity decisions. So I love this change here now that we have it, and now I'm loving the use of the new my account type too, right? More specific shape, better data integrity instead of some of the hacking. People always want to try to create one data type and use it everywhere. And in the beginning, it feels good because you're moving fast and you're not marshaling. But it's always going to come back and bite you, because code changes, it gets more complex, you add more stuff to it, and you need this flexibility in the data shape, in the data structures. Okay, so now if you want to do a handshake, you need an account. You need an account. You could construct an empty one. You ain't helping yourself, but we know we can get that from the database itself. Okay, and so now we've got the concept of a user. Okay, a user is that, as opposed to my account is that I still hate the my last nonce. What did I have before there?
You had, I think you did client as well, or app. You were between those two.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with app here. I'm just gonna stick with app because I think if I say this is the app's last nonce, you know what that is right away, right? As opposed to the user.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see how that plays out. Okay. Insert a contact. Yeah, this is what we need. So far I like these changes here. And now we've got the nonce stuff here. We need to sort of now look at the insert. We're going to have to add another API too for updating the nonce, right? Because if I do the query, I get your nonce. I can insert a new contact, right? I can insert a new message. Let's go back to storage for a second now, because we've got insert contact, insert a message. We're going to need a update, and it's really like update nonces, right? And we're going to need the app nonce, which will be a uint64, and the contact nonce, which is also a uint64. Now, I'm using the word app here, right?
Yep.
I'm using the word app here, right? Okay, which is fine, maybe. Where's our local data structures? I went too far up for a second. Oh, it's here. But on disk, we still call it. I'm going to change this to app. How about that? What if we keep that consistency? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think app is sort of good here. I think that works better. So if I keep this at app level, that's fine. Create on disk. Now, we know that's going to be set to 0 on a create, so that's fine. Delaney's saying app being an implementation and a struct is a tad confusing for me. All right, that's fair. I'm going to keep going with this though, and then I think we can have that conversation. But we have to flush. Okay, all right, so we're going to be implementing now. We're going to need something here. Let's do the low level piece first. All right. Now, actually, what do we have already? We have the flush, right? That just writes everything back to disk. And we said that we could just sort of keep this. No, that's for the message, sorry. Flush DB to disk, right? We could flush the entire data file to disk. So I think we could kind of leverage what we did. Where do we use that? Let's find where we use that code. So again, I'm just like old school. I like doing that and seeing what turns red, but I already have some sort of redness here. So, okay. So we're using it on insert contact, aren't we? Insert contact. You know what? I'm going to steal this code and use it for the update. So update nonces. Give me the app nonce. Give me the contact nonce, right? So what does that mean now? Well, oh, what am I missing here, dude? Of course. I need the ID, don't I, of the contact. I'm going to call this ID nonce. So now what happens here? I have to find this nonce, don't I? So let's do this first. That contact should exist, right? I now have the contact. Now what do I want to do? I want to update u dot app last nonce equals app nonce u dot last nonce equals the nonce for that ID, right? Then we got to put it back in to this list. So that's fine. I don't need any of this now. I don't need this. I need this. And I think we return an error. Oh, but flushing to disk requires a data file. Right. That was a flush message. We might be missing something then. I could read everything back off of disk. Oh, man. That's an insert contact. So that's easy. All right, so a couple of things here. We have our in-memory database, right, of this. DB. What we need to be able to do is flush everything that we have in memory, essentially, which is this DB. Right? These two things.
Yeah.
Sort of back to disk here. I don't know how we haven't done that. Let's go look at. I gotta look at this again. Create on disk. We created a data file based on these two things. Put into JSON and wrote. Okay. Then we had the idea of flushing an entire data file to disk, which we are using somewhere here. When we insert a contact. Oh, you see the work we did here?
Yep.
We read it, and then we appended a new one and flushed it, which works here, right? I mean, that works here. But it's not going to work for updating. Is it? No. You see, that's not going to work because now we've got to iterate over the data file users until we find that ID. And then we could write it. Now, we could switch that to being a map, which changes all this again, you know?
Okay.
Where I'm trying to think of the easy way out here. Because in order to flush, we've got to be able to read one of these back and, right? It's like we got to read this off of disk, find the user, update the nonce, and flush it back, essentially. All right, hold on. Again, there's some inefficiencies here, right? We know that.
Yeah.
But it's okay for now, right? So let's just take the inefficiencies for what they are here for now. So the message that I wrote there was, right? Let me just dump this code that I have here for a second. So it's kind of the same thing, right? We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna update the in-memory cache of contacts. That's what this does here, okay? That's what this does. It updates our in-memory. But
Got it.
now
Yep.
we need to basically update the local file. So super inefficient again, right? But we can read from disk. Then I could say for range df dot contacts. Again, sort of inefficient, but if that ID matches the ID that we have,
Mm-hmm.
now
Yep.
we can't really do it this way. We have to do it this way. I need I here because this is more of a pointer semantic sort of update. All right, I've got to update this data structure, not the copy that we have here.
Got it. Okay.
But see, once we do that, there is no append. It's just sort of flushing it back to disk. So there's a little bit more inefficiency here because we got to do a linear traversal sort of to find it. If we had this in a map, then we could, right, use the O1 abilities of a map to do
Yes.
this. But then I would want to flush that to the map. I would want to flush the map here as well. And so this wouldn't be a sort of collection. It would look more like a key value pair in here. But
Got
then we're
it.
breaking this thing again, and I just don't want to do that right now. So, because then we got to read, like, you know what I'm saying? So this should sort of do it for us. So we update we're going to update our in-memory. We're going to just write that to disk inefficiently, but it will work. And then we're fine. So that's the update nonces sort of call here that we have. And we don't need any more lower level stuff. Just read and flush. Blah, 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 blah. It could be, Delaney, if we had millions of sort of users in our little chat client. So I'm gonna, since Delaney brings that up, I'm gonna get back to that, right? So at some point, this linear traversal for the number of users we're gonna have won't matter. I am saying already that it's somewhat inefficient, but, right, your linear traversal arrays are going to beat your fancy algorithms almost every time because of the way the hardware works. Now, we're using our own really silly little sort of file structure as a start. Ideally, the storage can be replaced with a database or something much more efficient, right? This is just one implementation. And if I really cared about the performance, because I was going to have hundreds of thousands of users, I would definitely switch this to a map almost immediately, right? And again, what I said before, maybe not reading and flushing full disk all the time, but also trying to be smarter, right? But then Delaney's like, yeah, there's other packages out there that do persistence with B trees. And so we could always add more complexity or find third-party support to do this better. But for now, this is going to work for us. And that's sort of all I care about right now. Somebody could always come in and implement a new storage package. They just have to implement that interface again, right? What's that interface? Right now it's this. And on the UI side, right now it's, well, basically it's just that anyway. So the UI is using the same thing. This is based, but now we've got a new one, right? We just added some new support. It's now called update nonces, right? So let's bring that into the interface here. So now we have this. We're adding a new sort of storage API called update nonces. Given an ID, do that. And again, we could have another implementation. I just trying to stress to everybody that I know our little DB file implementation of storage has some inefficiencies in it. And for where we're at, it's good. But we did work last week to allow you to replace that. Somebody wants to come in and give us a more robust storage system that doesn't require us saying Docker run, I'm all for it. Because we're trying to get this working where you can just clone and go. Clone and go. I don't want anything other than that. Yeah, and Delaney's, yeah, this will be more than fine. Until we're hitting seconds of wait time on that, we're going to be fine. Yeah, Delaney thinks he's going to have time to play with that. We're going to see. Yeah, I want to see how fast he gives me a data star UI for this thing. We're going to see. We're going to see. We're going to have Delaney on the show every week now, throwing stuff at this. Okay, so we now have the update nonces, right?
Yep.
So I think we have our storage stuff done. We now can at least update, but now we need to use the nonce stuff. So where do we use the nonce stuff? We're going to need it as part of we already have it as part of the messaging, right? There's a nonce here. And
Yep.
if I just X that out for a second, it's at the bottom here. Right? We've hard coded it to what?
1.
We're hard into 1. We can't do that anymore. This has to be the current nonce plus 1, right? So
Yeah.
what we could do is we'll change the API for the nonce. This is nice because 1, something's going to go red, so we'll know where to use that. And it looks like we might have changed the interface now, which is why that went red over there. And is that a UI? Yeah, right? So that's now the new interface. So yay for the compiler, telling us where things are going to break. And that's all the way down here in the button handler. Now, this is inside the UI, right? And for better or worse, and this is where Delaney's going to see some problems, we're using the list box sort of as data state, right, for the UI. We're basically saying to the UI, you already know what the list of IDs and things are because it's in your list box. So we haven't exposed some data storage stuff to the UI because right now this assumes that it has sort of state. And that might change. So when we get Delaney involved, he might say, Bill, I can't, that was bad decision. I need an actual API to get sort of the details. And in fact, we're kind of there right now, aren't we? Because I need the nonce information. I need the information that's sort of in the app layer. I could use this to get the ID, okay? And that's what we're doing right here. Like, I don't think it's wrong to suggest that the UI will have the ID. I think it's wrong to suggest that the UI has to also maintain nonce information. At this point, it needs nonce information. It needs the ability to get that. Now, what's interesting is we do have this query context handler, don't we?
Yep.
Okay, so one could argue then, since we have that already, okay, that UI.query, didn't we have it here? .app, sorry. UI.app.query context handler for the ID, which is a common address to Now this is just a string at the end of the day, right? And remember, we have this API to create a common address. So if I do this, one would argue that this would work and this would work here. So kind of, let's see again. This needs a common address. Doesn't this create a common address? It does. There it is there. Oh, but now we need the nonce. That's why it's doing that. Okay. So we can now make this call, right? We get back a user or an error.
Yep.
If there's an error, then we just write that to the screen at this point. Now, this is beautiful because now I would argue that we can generate the next nonce, right? And it's not app last nonce. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be app last nonce, right? We're sending it.
Okay.
But the question now is, we need to go back and update. We need to be able to update that nonce information. Because if that send happens correctly, we've got to record sort of where we are with that. So,
yeah, that nonce that it sent.
Right? And so I think this API is probably wrong because we're going to have to individually update the nonce separately now that I see it. So hold on a second here. I'm starting to now think that we're going to have an update app nonce, right, for this ID, in which case we're going to do this. I know a lot of this code's going to be the same. I don't care right now. It's not like the thing I care about. So we've got the update app nonce. And then on the other side, we're going to have the update contact nonce, right? In fact, I think
Okay.
I just call this nonce here. Because when a message comes in, we're going to have to check that, right?
Yes.
And so this is now just the last nonce. And it's all sort of the same. I don't care about the redundancy here. We can come back later and try to, not repeat ourselves. If that becomes, like this code here, well, we could look at it later. It's not important, okay? What's important
Gotcha.
now is that we've got an update app and we've got an update contact. And we're in a space right here where we need to be able to do this, at least right now. All right? And so one way we can handle that, and now I'm happy we're using the interface more than what we were doing a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah.
Now this went red because remember we extended these APIs at the app layer? Just so I thought at the time that it would be nice to just do this. But now I'm thinking maybe it might be nice just to tell the storage layer. Because now I've got to write all of these sort of wrappers, right? Remember I wrote that wrapper here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where the wrapper was. Oh, here, set. Right? I wrote a wrapper
Set.
where the app layer had this right here. This little wrapper here. Because I don't know why I thought at the time that, but maybe what would be better is if this took a store, like if I go back to this, I don't have to write wrappers is what I'm trying to say here. So if I go
Gotcha.
back
Okay.
here and call this storage. Oh, but it's not all storage, is it? It's not all storage. That was the problem. It's some of it is storage and some of it is app. So, okay, let's just continue to do this then. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to kill us. Right? I'm just writing these wrappers.
Mm-hmm.
App DB storage, update app nonce. I need this here now too. Starting to think I don't like this. Because right now it's kind of confusing, because at the end of the day, what is the behavior that the UI needed? It needs to be able to send a message, query, and update an app nonce, right?
Yes.
And I'm saying that you're going to get this functionality from the app. Some of this is storage,
Okay.
some of it is not. What we could also do to sort of make this a little easier on ourselves is this. We could say, I need
Separate
this,
it.
right, from app related stuff, and then I need this from storage related stuff. All right. And then, you know how we had the set app, like I hate this API, but let's just continue to do this for a second. Right? This is the bug that we got to fix. But if we did this, okay, then these wrappers that I wrote down here go away. I don't need them. Because what we'll do is we're going to come up with a better name than this, okay? We'll come up with a better name for this. But now we say from storage, I need query, and it's not query contact handler here. It's going to be query what? Query contact. Contact by
Query
ID,
contact
right?
by ID.
Yeah. Oh, did I call this storage? All right, let's see what I'm doing now. We have app. Oh. It'd help if I spelled things properly, wouldn't it? All right. I always had a professor that said you can misspell things as long as you consistently do it. And this is deep storage. All right. So you see, if we do this, which I was trying to consolidate everything last week, but if we do this and we specify what we need from the app side, what we need from the storage side, then I don't have to write the extra little wrappers around the app. We just sort of set this. I hate the name of this, set app storage, right?
Yeah.
The cool thing though is that from a UI perspective now, let's go back to the UI, right? Instead of contacts here, we can now say storage, right? We can do that
okay.
here. I can do that here. So where do we create the... Where do we set that up? All right, I'll find that in a second. Hold on. we're going to fix this. Hold on. That might even fix our other bug. Here. And just do UI. That might fix our other bug. Let's take a look. So if I do that, then this can continue to say set app, right? Because this is the only chicken and the egg problem I had. There. And then this can just say app. And then this is just DB, right? Because I could pass the DB direct. I have it at this point. And then this is all about saying db.contacts. Oh no, I'm not calling it DB here anymore. I'm calling it storage.
Storage,
Which,
yep.
you know, let's just be consistent, even though it's the storage API, right? It
Just call it
represents
DB.
at some level of database. So I've got some inconsistency going on there, don't I? We could fix some of that later. db.contacts. Oh. So now that changes a little bit more too, right? Because by doing that, I have to add this behavior too, which is fine. Remember we were consolidating the behavior, but I think we started hiding things too much.
Okay.
So by doing that, come back down here, DB. We now have the ability to, but now we're back to the problem that we had. I have to be able to update the app nonce, right?
Yes.
Update the app nonce. And so I would argue then here, we should be able to do a UI db.update app nonce, giving me the ID and then the new nonce, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And now if that fails, now what stinks about all this, and Delaney's gonna agree, that this is like application logic that we're sort of pushing into the UI, right?
Yes.
In other words,
yeah.
anybody that writes a UI needs to do this stuff. They're going to need to, right? The whole point here is it's a button. When you do the button, you got to do the send. Now, let me ask you a question, right? Like all of this logic, we could hide behind the send. In other words, I'd rather you just have to call send message handler, right?
I would like that better.
Right?
I feel like.
And that you don't have to do any of this. So ideally, my idea is
that send handles all of that.
Yeah, that the send
before it ever
message
gets
handler sort of handles all of that. Now, the send message handler, you can see here at the, I go to the app level. Where's our send message handler? It's
right there.
Here, isn't it?
Yep.
Already done a lot, doesn't it? But let's just throw some stuff in here for a second. I'm just going to throw that in there. I want it out of this. We're doing too much in here. And I want to take this and get it out of here. Okay. And just throw it in here for a minute. Okay. Just to have it. And go back to the TUI, and that goes away again, right? And The only thing we're asking is you give me the common address, which at the end of the day, it's essentially about this. However, right? All these APIs at the UI level ask for this common address. So the question that I want to ask is, at the UI level, let's just keep that. I'm wondering if we should drop down to a string, but I'm not going to do that because it's just easy to make this call, right? So look, I think everything here is reasonable for a UI to do.
Yes,
Agreed?
that seems a little, yeah,
Okay.
that's better.
So I think all that's reasonable for a UI to do. We needed the query here because when you select an item, we needed to show the user information. That's agreed. But I don't think we need the update nonce here anymore because we're going to do it on the other side, right?
Yeah, the send is taking care of that.
Yeah, the send should take care of that. All the UI needs is the list of contacts and to be able to query data so we could do the things that it has to do and be able to send, right? Send a message.
Yep.
Okay. Fine. So let's come back to this mess now. So this is just a message now, right? And an ID. So we have the ability to do that.
And the ID is 2.
2. And then we have the ability.
Yep. Return the error.
Right. Okay. So this gives us the nonce, right? Yeah, we were asking Delaney. So when I think about that code, I think about Delaney, right? And I think about that next implementation. And I'm saying, am I asking Delaney to do too much? In other words, why should Delaney be writing business logic? All Delaney should have to do is
just make the one call and put it on the screen.
Make the call to send it, right, and do
Yep.
the rest of it, right? It was way too much. So we query it. Now here's the other thing. Yeah, I want to look at this again. When we query, we do look in memory. If there are 0, let me read from this. So I love that, right? It's still in memory. Okay, now we have a nonce, don't we?
Yep, we do.
Now we have a nonce. We do our thing.
Nonce, yep.
We write the message. We inserted the message to the database, right? This writes it over the connection. Okay. Then we have to do the following. We have to update that nonce.
Yep.
But it's not
2 and then,
yeah, it's 2. It is 2.
And then add.
Then we insert the message. And then we write it to the UI. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a big function. But essentially we query it. We get the last app nonce. because when we query two, right, we have them and us. This is us. So we get the app nonce, we do that, we do that, we do that. We write it over the socket. If nothing fails, then we update the nonce, we insert the message, and then we're done. Dude, that's pretty good. That should work.
Nice.
And it's this that we're signing with the next nonce, right? Okay, so far I love that. The TUI just got a little simpler, and we've triple checked
Yep.
what the UI needs, and it's just query stuff. Okay. Now, there's another piece to this. This is when the message comes in, right?
Okay.
And that's this code right here
Mm-hmm.
that we wrote in a literal function. I'm starting to think we should put this in a named function so we know where it is, But I ain't going to do anything just yet. We read the message incoming
Yep.
from message.
On Marshall.
We queried. If they're new, we insert.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They didn't exist.
We update.
Now, here okay. So this is where we've got to do this work now with the nonce. Because remember, we didn't do any signature checking here. Where do we do the signature check? That's at the cap level, right? We're at the client level.
Yes, in the cap. In the cap, we did that.
In the cap. So we essentially have an incoming message, and we have a user. So this is where things matter now, okay? Just do this for a second. We now have the nonce, right? So we have an incoming message. Let's look at it. That was from incoming message didn't have a nonce in it. Hold on.
From
So we got to make some changes on the server side now.
Yeah.
Because this here now is going to have the nonce.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, this is going to have a nonce. The nonce that we're going to be checking. The outgoing message has this nonce. The incoming message is going to have a nonce. Let's look at the server code for a second now. So listen waits for a message from the user, right?
Incoming message there.
Right, we had that. This is where we check the signatures and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if the user's not found, we're going to send the from, the to, and the message over. But my guess is the from,
There's no
nonce information.
There's no nonce.
So
yeah.
Let's go back where I was here for a second. So this message, right? A message just came in from this user. Okay. We need to see where that happens first. What went red?
Chat app.
Chat app went red. Okay, so that's what started the whole sort of thing, right? This listen socket thing. So we don't have, at the end of the day, I don't have nonce information at this point. I just have an ID and a name, okay? So that's fine. We read this message. The incoming message has a nonce, doesn't it?
Yep.
Fine. We use that to do the check. We do that to do this. We do that. And then we're going to say from to. We're going to have to add a nonce here, I think. Let's see how that plays out. Now, our problem here, now it's not really a problem, but the outgoing message, let's find the definition for that. Right? We re-leveraged user, which is fine. Oh, you see, dude, that's ugly as sin. Why did we do that? See what I talk about with sort of reusing.
Yep.
Okay, but fine. The outgoing message has last ping, last pong. That's fine. I'm not going to play with that. We said you don't send the connection over. But now the question is, do we do this? Nonce. I don't know if I put the nonce here or not. Like, I could put the nonce here, but my
Why not
brain,
in the why not in the outgoing message?
yeah, my brain is saying we should put it here.
I'm just
And not
thinking that because incoming message has it. So it's outgoing.
Yeah, but what we also did on outgoing message, right? You know,
Let's give it all of that.
it's bothering me that I reused user, but I probably did it because I didn't. This is where you get in trouble when you're like, I didn't want to. But now this is sort of too late. That's from, right? From has all this. That's going out. But I feel like if we're going to do this, the nonce has to be here. It's from them, and that's their nonce, right?
Okay.
It
Yeah.
has to be that. So if I go back to this now, we know that the from, anytime we send a message, right? We know there's not going to be a nonce on this from because it's us, the initial user, and we're always sending that back down. So by specifying nonce, we could put it here.
Okay.
That's going to go over. That's going to go over nats. So here's the listen socket again, right? Read a message from this user, which is static, essentially. My guess is that we update last ping and last pong at some point for that user as well. I'm kind of interested to see where that happens, just to remember.
Their user last pong.
Oh, that happens in the database side of things, doesn't it? Yeah. Hmm. So you know what this means, right?
Update nonce. Yep.
I mean, for consistency, right? There's going to have to be an update nonce here. Which now means that we're going
Update
to
last
need,
ping.
yeah. The problem though is, I feel like if we don't do this, we're being inconsistent, right? I just feel like we're being inconsistent. I hate that chat. Update. Should be update. So I just feel like we need to do it this way. All right.
Which it makes sense with the way we did ping and pong.
Yeah, I feel like if we don't do it this way, we had comments here, so I'm just going to keep it. I feel like we have to do it this way. Because I'm going to fix that in a second. But if I come back down here, where we were doing pings and pongs, right? And we know this is running on separate sort of go routines and stuff, but it's updating it. So let's come back to listen socket. We read, it sort of comes in, right? It comes in. We did the signature. Now we're retrieving the user, right? So if we retrieve the user, yeah. So I'm stuck because I'm stuck because I think what we need to do is have update nonce, since it's already going to be having to query the database and stuff. Is going to have to act like retrieve. Because if not, then we got to do two operations, update and then retrieve. So it would be better if update nonce also returned the user information already updated, right?
Gotcha. Okay, I see. Yep.
Yeah, because there'll be like real inefficiencies then. So like we updated the user here, we have it, now we can return it with the nonce in place. Because now what happens here, whatever the nonce was, which was in message, right? Let's double check though what happens with update nonce if it can't find. It's the same thing as retrieve, right? Not exists. Look at retrieve. Where's retrieve? Retrieve. Not exists. Okay. So it's the same sort of API that comes back. So the idea here is we get it, we sign it, right? We validate the signature. We now update the nonce. We've done that. We've updated it in our own little storage that we're managing here, right?
Yep.
Now, once we do that, we also get back 2. 2 has the nonce now. So 2 has the nonce. This is where we're supposed to be going, right? So we read a message off the socket. So I'm trying to send a message to you, okay? Bill is sending something to Kevin. This is the message. I say it's going to Kevin. Here's the message. And that's my next nonce, right?
Yep.
So bop, bop, bop. So we come in here and I say update the nonce for this user, but it's not really your nonce, it's my nonce, isn't it? Shit.
Yeah.
It's the from nonce, it's not the to nonce.
Oh.
It's the from nonce, it's not the to nonce. So everything I just did here might be really bad. It's the from nonce, not the to nonce. So maybe this was bad because it doesn't represent, in this case, the user, that nonce doesn't represent, stuff's tricky. In this case, what we have is, that, no, so we're going to get it, dude. But the problem here is I don't want to update the nonce here, right? Because this is it's the from nonce. It's not to, right? It's the from. So why don't we fix that first of all? Let's fix that first of all right? When it comes to the outgoing message, it's the from nonce. Agreed?
Yep.
Okay. When it comes to an incoming message, when it's an outgoing message, it's basically to this ID, and this is the nonce, the from nonce. So you want to check to make sure that it's the next message you expect. Okay?
Yeah.
When an incoming message comes in, we're going to have, it came from this person. Yeah. And this is their nonce that we were expecting to get from them. So that sort of works.
Okay, got it, got it.
So it's always going to be the from nonce that makes this sort of work. And sure enough, if I come back here, right, we query the to, send message, we're going to send this to them. And we're saying app. That's our app last nonce, right? That's us, from us, right? That's our app nonce. So I think all that then works pretty well. So if I come back here, and we're going to update the nonce. Let's just hold this for a second. I'm going to put this back to retrieve for a minute. All right. This also has to be from nonce. From nonce. And incoming message, we'll change this also to be from nonce, right? All right. Okay. Okay, so let's come back in here. Incoming message, right? I'm sending it to Kevin. It's from me. Oh, not necessarily here, but so I retrieve you. It's going to Kevin. I retrieve you. And then I say, okay, it's from me. That's static at all times, right? It's from me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's static. That doesn't change. 2, this is the from nonce. Which is really the incoming message here. From nonce message. Let's try this, okay? And then on the outgoing message, from, yeah. I think that works. There's the from nonce. We're not going to take it from this. I think it would be wrong to update the nonce here. Though we could accept that I'm worried about multi-threaded problems now. So if I come back here, listen socket, right? No, it's a single threaded thing, right? A message comes in. It's always going to be from me. I mean, the other option is this, dude, since it's always from me. The other option is this. All right. That's the other option. Since this isn't a single go routine, when a message comes in, but again, that's wrong because I'm going to have a different nonce for every person I'm sending a message to. That's the problem, right?
Yeah, that's true
And this
too.
is the nonce right now to talking to you. But talking to Mohammed, that nonce is different. And talking to somebody else, that
Yes.
nonce is different. So I can't store that here because then I'd have to store it at a, it doesn't make sense, right? And so I have no
Yeah.
choice but to pass this to say that this is the nonce that you need to use, who it's from, because they're going to check their local database. So I think this is fine, right? I think this ends up, this path, a code path at least, ends up being fine. So I'm starting to think that there should be no nonce here at the user level. Because these nonces aren't like, they're different.
They're different
For,
depending on who they're talking to.
I'm going to get rid of this. Right? It's like the client maintains the nonce database. We just have to forward it around.
Exactly.
So, now, here's a problem where we were sort of reusing this outgoing user, weren't we? So now I think it's time to do a user struct, which just has the three things we need. Because we didn't even need the other stuff anyway, did we? See what happens? I can't hear you anymore, but you see what happens when you start mixing these damn data structures again?
Yeah. Yeah, I see it.
All right. Outgoing user. So, outgoing user. And Kevin, I don't know if you purposely muted me or not, but.
Do you hear me? You hear me?
So
You hear me? No.
we shouldn't have been reusing user because that's all the data we needed to send on the outgoing message anyway. And we didn't have to send the other stuff. So outgoing user there with the nonce saying from. I think that works good. Now,
Do you hear me now, Bill?
when it comes to listening on the bus, okay. This is from nonce now. This is from nonce. When it comes to listening on the bus, what happens? A bus message comes in. We get it. The bus message needs what? The bus message now has a cap ID, from name, from nonce, and then has the incoming message. Ah, interesting. So I don't need the from nonce here because we already have it on the incoming message, don't we? So let's come back. And so the data that was signed, I want to go back and look at that one more time. The data that was signed was toID message and from nonce. And this nonce is coming from the from nonce. Come back here. Yeah. And the outgoing message has the from nonce. Okay. So the outgoing message, I still can't hear you, so I don't know what happened, but the outgoing message should be looking like the incoming message. Yeah, it does. Cool. Oh, Kevin needs to join again. Shoot. Hold on. I just realized you needed to join again. I still can't
Can you
hear you,
hear?
so I don't know
Can
what
Can you hear
happened
me
on
now
this,
or no?
side at all.
You hear me
That
now or no?
sucks. So I don't know what happened. I'm gonna keep going. Oh, it disconnected you.
Yeah. Can you? You can't hear me at all?
I don't know why I can't hear you.
I
It's
don't
the
know.
first technical difficulty we've had. I wonder if anybody can hear me.
Everything's all good.
Maybe the whole
I
audio is down.
I hear you. I hear you.
You can hear me.
Yeah,
All
but
right, so I'm back up. Oh, I see the. I just can't hear you anymore, which is a bummer.
yeah, I don't know.
All right, so I'm just gonna have to keep going in silence here. But I think now when we send this message, you see how we constructed the from user by ourselves to, this is the from nonce. And we pass that over.
You still can't hear me, Bill?
So I think it was wrong. Our initial idea of storing the nonce here at a user level was wrong because nonces are not specific to a user. They're a relationship between two people. So I think the model stays the way it is, right? I think the incoming message has the from. We create an outgoing user now, which has these three things. And then an outgoing message is basically an outgoing user and that. Now, an outgoing message is what goes back down to the client. So that's the send. This might have to be from, though. Let's find that code again, which is right here, an incoming message. So an incoming message on the client side, oh yeah, it's just an ID name and nonce. That's what I did here. ID name and nonce. Okay, cool. So what that tells me, dude, is we query the user, right? The user has a app last nonce. That's us. Their last nonce. So if last nonce, now we could do this.
Okay.
Expected nonce equals user last nonce plus 1, right? And then if the incoming message, that's the user. If in message from nonce does not equal expected nonce, then we want to essentially throw this all away, don't we? So we could just write that right now on the screen. And in message is really in message from nonce. So here's this extra sort of level of work we're doing. Now, if that's true though, so if that works, now I need the update nonce API, which we have, right? Update the nonce. Now, we're updating it for from and the expected nonce, because that's what we got. Pretty cool, right? So now
Very cool.
when the message comes in, we query the user. We now expect that the nonce is going to be the next one that we have. If it's not, we say no, somebody's trying to spoof. Then we can update everything here. And then on the send side, we read our app last nonce for that user, increment it by 1, send it, and then update that there too. And the from is the 2 in this case. Okay. You know, we could put this code, but I'm using closures around it. It just makes it a little easier, but like we could that's it. Damn it, why are you doing that? Stop. Let's just leave it. I could put it in a function like
its own named function.
Because this is the code that reads the socket connection, right? So like I don't know why you did any of that I didn't ask you to do. Stop trying to help me. So all we need is a con here. It's a WebSocket connection. It's hard on that little TV, man. Oh, you were giving it to me. I wasn't even listening. I mean, my idea right now is this. Just to have a separate function for all that, right?
It would be easier to find that way.
Read message. That's the raw message, right? All right. So it might be easier for our mental model just to have this function that we know is wrapped around a go routine up here. And sort of does that work. So, oh, what did I break here? This is the handshake. All right, what did I break here? What is it complaining about? That we don't use message. Huh. Now I'm confused what I broke here, but yeah, all right. It's almost like I don't even care what that message is, right? Just want it. Hopefully we didn't break anything there. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I see some other questions there, but we'll get to it in a second. All right, so I just wanted to move that outside of the handshaking stuff just so I keep finding a function here that receives the socket message, right? One could also argue that what this is receiving the cat message, aren't we?
Yep.
Because this code is connecting to the cat. So I think we get some better sort of mental models around that. Now something here broke. And this is our, so what did we break here? This chat new takes a chat user, and now it says it doesn't implement update nonce. All right. Now, I don't think we need update nonce anymore here. Let's get rid of it, right? We didn't add an update nonce anymore. So I got to get rid of it from the interface. We don't need it. Okay, so this is what I think. Even though I can't talk to Kevin directly because I can't hear him anymore, I think it's time to sort of test this. I expect some problems to occur. But Kevin, assuming you can hear me, I would go ahead and add the app last nonce and last nonce to your data JSON just to start. I'm double checking that's what we called it. Okay. So Kevin, go ahead and add app last nonce and last nonce to your thing. Where is your Mac muted? Are you okay? But you can hear me, right? I just got your other message.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that should be fine. I don't know how to unmute you if you think I've muted you. I don't know how to do that. So that's like really weird. But stream can hear you too. I'm on YouTube. Okay, that's all that matters.
I'm pretty
right
sure.
now. So let's do the following. Oh, I got an hour there. Okay. Add those two fields. Just give me a thumbs up when you've added those to your contact list. This code is probably gonna break, but that's okay. All right, so we have that nonce support now. All right, I'm pushing up the nonce support. Now, I'll answer your point to receiver question, AGB, when we're sort of done here. Let me just try to get this now working. So I'm gonna bring up the cap. We still have that bug in the UI. I'm gonna bring up the client. We still gotta fix that bug. Now, I'm gonna, Kevin, look at me in the camera. Is your system up now?
Go to the other.
I don't know what that means. All I can take is binary. Yes, no. Oh, you sending me a message? Oh, there we go. Go back to data JSON. Sorry. All right. Go back to data JSON. You need to add app last nonce and last nonce to your data file. Okay. So now bring up the client and your cap.
Okay, I'm up.
Now, you're set to 0. I'm set to 0. So when you send this message, it should have a 1 in it. And that's the only way I should accept it. So send me a message. Let's see what happens. Okay. So the first problem I have is a signature check doesn't match, which means that what we're signing on the client side isn't the way we're checking it on the server side. So what we're going to do first is that test message function Kevin E. Oh, so we're going to do a couple things now. I expected this, right? So on the app side, when you send a message, here it is. Let's just go through that code again. So the data to sign is toID message from nonce. Okay, that's what we sign. And then we send that out. So sort of that hasn't really changed, right? Now, let's go back over to the cap side. In our chat package. So incoming message was that. These fields are the same, are they not? Chat app 2 from nonce, nonce, nonce. So then the only reason for that to be different is if we're not using the right nonce on both sides. Okay? So, because you're saying 1, 1, let's just double check something here. And I'm using in message from nonce, and on the app side, yeah, from nonce. Okay, so yeah, some clown just came in. Okay, so we're gonna have to do some logging, man. We're gonna have to do some logging. So on the app side, I kind of need to see if what these data values are, right? I need to sort of see what these data values are. Now, at this point, I think the only way to do that is sort of using this, right? I'll be sort of using this here. So maybe what I can do takes a string, an ID, and a message, right? Text, an ID, so system, and a message, which can be func.sprintf %v. Just curious what the nonce is, right? Nonce. I'll do that on the app side. So we'll just see what the nonce is there. It's easier to do this on the server side, isn't it? Because I could just do some functing here. Do I have a log anyway? Yeah, log info. And I got context, and I got a message. And then I can essentially do, it'll be kind of interesting to see this. All right. You cannot ever, never, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never suggest that you have a shared package with the same types. That's going to get you in more trouble than you even know. We've gone out of our way to have separate structs. So you can never do that. These are two different systems built in two different ways. Plus you have JavaScript and stuff. Can never do that. I know it sounds right. I know it sounds convenient, but we're going to want the flexibility in our data shapes. So I don't know what the bug is yet. It could be that we're not sending this right. Could be anything. So I've just got to debug it. So Kevin So we're looking for the bug, I think it's going to be silly, man. I feel bad because we did a lot of changes, right? Trying to get that nonce in place. And I made some mistakes early on, not remembering what the nonce was. I like the solution we now have. But so I need you to, and I didn't like some logging either. So send me that again. And then you're going to have to also share with me what's in your editor. So message received, message sent over WebSocket. I didn't get an error this time. That's better. Message received. Signature does not match. Okay, hold on. The first time I didn't get an error message. The second time I did. I'm also not seeing that logging that I added. But I do see a 1 there. Okay. I think maybe what's happening is, I don't have the logging, that the app side might not be incrementing this counter. Maybe. What's a bummer to me though is I thought I added this logging here, but maybe this was the wrong place to put that because this is coming in over the bus, right? I put it in the wrong place. Listen bus, here. All right, let me just rerun my cap. And I have a feeling that I have a feeling. Oh, we did embedding there, didn't we? Yeah. Let me rerun my cap. I have a feeling we're not incrementing the nonce. So send that message again, Kevin. This should be nonce 2. The second message was, okay, slow down. That was 2. The next one was 0. And then it was 3. Okay. Oh, is that you sending stuff to me? All right. So, all right, hold on. Restart your client, Kevin. Got a bunch of stuff happening now. So I don't think we're dealing with nonces properly on the client side at any level. Because I also think, don't send anything. You didn't send this. So, oh, I broke something too, bro. Damn it. Let's go back to the, damn it. Okay, hold on. When the signature didn't match, I didn't okay the message. I didn't do the ACK. Because, oh, where's the code for that? All right, let's do this. I do that, I don't have to do anything else. I'm missing an ACK here. So okay. So this is the server side, and the problem now is when the signature check doesn't match. Oh. I think we have to do this. Because I'm not acking the messages unless everything's good, and now we're getting them back. You know what I'm saying? So I have to do that here. And then on this, not a big deal. There's no acking there. Okay, so that was a bug. We're going to act the message at all times. So what's happening right now is I'm getting your old messages back. And that seemed to have, okay, let this go. So this was my bug because I wasn't deferring the ACK, right? Don't send anything. So I shouldn't have any more messages from you at all. Now, if I come back here for a second, I'm assuming you have 1. If you look in your contact list, your last nonce should be 1. Is it 1? Okay. So restart your client. I'm going to restart this one too. Restart your client and send me 1 message. Okay, so message received. See, here's the problem. From nonce. So let's talk about this. That should have been 2, not 1. Because we said you already sent 1. Now, I got that message, right? But we're definitely doing this wrong, and that didn't sort of change. But it didn't change because you sent me 1, but I accepted it. So let me look at this logic first before we send another one, okay? So let me look at this logic here. So received a message from CAP. I came in and pulled your contact information. It should have been 1. Now, maybe I'm not reading this properly, and it's always set to 0, right? I wonder I wonder when we first load this up. Dude, what are we not doing? That's why. So when we first loaded this up, we weren't storing the information. So
No,
that's why it sort of worked, but it really didn't work. So I'm going to send all this back up to you. Yours still says 1 as well, right? For your last? Yeah, okay. So let's do this. That might have been the bug right there. We just missed handling that state. So fixing nonce bug. All right. So pull latest, make run cap, make run client. Definitely had a bug with that ACK. That was going to bite us eventually. Still want to fix this bug. All right. So this time, invalid nonce 2 doesn't equal 1. That was your message. From nonce is 2. I see it. If I come back to my data, I needed to say what? 2. Does yours say 2 in your file? Okay. So I have a bug here. I'm going to just update this to 2. But let's look for the bug now that's in the cap. So what happens here? Listen bus. So a message came in, cap ID matched, signature matched. We retrieve. Now, I don't care about matching. Oh no, this isn't a cap issue, is it? This is a client issue. So let's go back to that. Message received from the cap. I read it, incoming, query, bop. We now had a, invalid nonce. 2 doesn't equal 1. Where did I see that? 2 doesn't equal 1. Well, there's your problem. There's your problem. I'm updating the wrong field. This is what it should look like. I'm updating the wrong field. Damn it. So when this comes in, I don't want to update the app nonce. I want to update the, what is it anyway? Damn it.
Last nonce.
Do I not have the other update? Did we get so distracted that we didn't have the other update? Damn it. Oh, I think we found our bug, bro. In this case, I need to update the contact nonce, right? And on this side, I update the app. Man, dude. So two tiny bugs. So I'm going to push this up, but mine needs to look like this, and yours needs to look like 2.0. Okay. So I'm just going to do this. All right, make run client. I'm gonna fix this bug too. Now send me a message. New message with the fix. I see that you sent nonce E. I don't understand why I called this FN there. We're going to fix that too. Now it says 3. Now let me send you a message. Now I wrote 1 out, so I gotta get rid of that. Did you get that? And did your file update? Okay, so now my only question is twofold. Where did that happen? And somewhere in here where I added the logging. Oh, from name. That was so confusing. I deserved that. All right. No results. Okay. So just turn that into from name. And then I'm going to push that up. And then I don't see where I did this, but I do know that if it doesn't match, where is that? Do that. But can you find? That's when I sent it, right? That's when I did a send. I don't know where that code is. Doesn't like something on the linter either. Oh. Okay. Do you have any idea? Hello, 2. Where am I logging that, bro? All right. Where's the code for the button? Oh, I mean, it's not in the TUI, obviously, because when you hit the button, it just calls send message handler, right? Here's the send message handler. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. Let's push this code. Rerun that. Rerun the client. We're going to fix this other bug now too. And so now we actually have the nonce level security working, right? We're keeping track now of that next message. And if somebody tries to send a message now and that nonce doesn't match, right? Like go into your file and decrement for a minute your nonce and then try to send a message. And I'm gonna, we should see that security message. No, that was bad. You sent from 4. Hold on. now it just went 5. Yeah. What I want you to do is close your client, go into your file, change it to 3, restart your client, and then send it. There it is, right? All right. So now you can put your file, close it, put your file back to 5, and then we'll be fine. But you see how that works? Now we're tracking the signatures based on the nonce. We're tracking the nonce. We know what we should get the next one from you. So we've now added another level of sort of security. And nobody could send the same message twice, essentially. At one level, what this solves on a financial system is sort of double dipping, right? Somebody can't execute the same transaction twice. When we're dealing with money, that is ridiculously important, right? Because if you sent me, say on Bitcoin or Ethereum, $1,000, I could potentially capture that and do it again. But since we have to use the next nonce, it prevents me from being able to sort of keep making you pay me $1,000 over and over again. In this case, I know there's no money involved, but it just gives us the extra security that, that the next message is always going to have the next nonce, and also so track all the messages. So let's just see if we could fix this last bug. And all this work had to be really in the client side. All we had to do was pass the nonce properly. I'm pretty happy we did that pretty well, though, But let's just take a look at this last piece of code before we close for today, which is in front ends, app, and it's right there in the beginning. This, or was in the UI, sorry. In the UI, this hack that we did here. So remember what I'm trying to do here. We have to set the app and then get that event to fire. So I went in and I said, tell me how many people are in the list, subtract it by 1, get me that person, remove them, and then the idea was to add them back into the list, right? Now, maybe what I need to do just to see. I got main as your name, right? All right. So let's see if I'm actually adding Kevin back, or whoever the last one is on this. So that's good, right? Except Kevin is selected. So I think the last bug here, oh, but we reselected number 1, didn't we? So here's my problem. I'd love to get rid of number 1, right? I'd love to get rid of number 1 and put number 1 back, but I can only add. I can't set, right? So I know what the bug is. I can't set an item into the array at the beginning again. All I can do is set the current item. And unfortunately, the current item is going to have to be the last item, which really sucks. Now, this little bug really sucks. Really sucks. I wonder then if I could just do this. See, that didn't work. But what did work was that. Nasty little buggy bug, but whatever, dude. Just hack it back in. Okay. It's just the way their code works. So remove it, I add it back, and then that fires the event. And the problem is like when there's only one item in there, right? It's hard, like, but now we're able to trace. So I'm just gonna leave this code here. Just fixing the UI bug. We won't have that with data star.
Nope.
Okay.
We will not.
So it's a bummer that we haven't been able to talk. We got to figure out what that bug is, because that's weird. Maybe something happened on my side with your user, but the system is so complicated, bro. I don't even know. Because I see your volume's 100% up.
Yeah,
and yeah, I don't
should
see
be able
it.
to hear me.
So we'll have to figure that out. But we do now have nonce working. Hold on. So let's go back and sort of try to get my cursor back over here. Okay. Let's go back now and look at our notes. All right. So all of that is done. But we're going to do a data star, right? We're going to do a data star client as well. So we've got to set up a time with Delaney to make that happen. And the idea is to do that on Thursday next week, right? So you're going to set that up, Kevin? Okay. So then when we get back on Tuesday, we're going to have to start diagramming again and start figuring out this temporary stream stuff. And we're going to have to write an algorithm that figures out what that is. And I think what we can do is use the data that we have, right? We can't pass that around. People will know what the name of the stream is. But I think now that we have this, right? And that's the same for both of us, essentially. Though app and last nonce would be reversed. But minus that, using this data, including your ID. So this data, we could generate a random string that both of you and I could produce, but nobody else could unless they know that data. That's going to be cool. Because then we can establish a private stream that nobody else knows the name of, right? Temporarily do what we have to do and then sort of tear it down. And nobody could figure it out unless they had access to our sort of our database. They'd have to know what our nonce numbers are between us. I mean, some brute force thing they could, but by the time we're done, it won't really matter, will it? No. And then once we have some encryption working too, we can even make it harder, you know?
Yeah.
But we'll get to all of that for sure. So I think we're going to start working on that stuff. Well, temporary private stream first, right? And then this doesn't really belong here. So that starting on Tuesday, and then on Thursday, we'll see what we have to change. I already know, right, that Delaney asked for run, I think it was, to, I don't remember, but we'll get to it. Like run to take a context, right? And we can fix all that. So we can make those changes and keep everything so good. So let me update these notes. And I think we should also probably review all the code changes we made today, because they were not trivial by any stretch of the imagination. And like when you're learning sometimes in these sessions and you're making mistakes, that's not helping anybody, right? And we sort of had to rename things. So we'll do a mental model check on that stuff too before we're done. But not a bad session. Not a bad session at all. We got it all working, and hopefully we can fix these other bugs going into next week. Well, next week you're back in the house, so they sort of go away. But if we have this with Delaney, it'll be a bummer. Anyway, I'm heading out. I'm finishing this stream, and it was nice to see everybody again.